Give me a second. All right. You're all in for a treat. I have Peter Grondahl live right here. Um, Peter doesn't like being on the spot. He doesn't like any media. He doesn't like anything. This guy's
Oh
off the
shit.
grid.
I love that stuff. What are you talking about?
I taught him how to use a computer. I, t-
Yeah.
I taught him how to use Dropbox. These
Oh
basic
yeah.
things. And
Hmm.
now he's getting fancy and using Photoshop. A little too fancy for me. All right, so let's talk a little bit about uh, there's so much to cover with you because you don't want to be known. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like I know you
No,
don't
but
like
it's
it. I know you don't like it, but the you know what I was just watching this documentary yesterday about it's on Netflix. You should watch it. You know that guy who climbed he climbed like he climbed this mountain solo, right? He didn't die, right? It's on Disney. Well, they were covering about another guy that he just didn't climb mountains. He climbed freaking ice. Like he climbed
oh
ice.
yeah.
You saw that?
I saw that.
And that
Oh
guy
man, it's
and
such a
and the
great
guy
show.
died, right?
Yeah,
But
it's from
what
Canada.
he reminded me of you because they were saying that that guy, because everyone else who does it, they'll announce it like, "Hey, I'm gonna go do this thing. Watch me,
Yeah.
everybody." This guy didn't do that.
Yeah,
This guy was like,
exactly.
"No, I'm off doing it." And you're lucky if you're there, and you're lucky if you're not there. And you reminded me of him because that's what you were telling me. You're like, dude, I'm not doing this for fame. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this for you just want to do it because you want to learn, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, he climbed didn't he break some kind of record but he didn't tell anyone?
Yeah. You didn't
He
tell?
just went out, he just did it and came down and he goes, "Oh yeah, I just did that." And they're like, "What the fuck? Why didn't you tell us? We wanted to film it and show it." And he's like, "Nah." I
Yeah.
know.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great show, by the way.
I know you
Uh,
like it, but the thing is that like we're not at an age, in my opinion, where you could just take my word for it. It's not like that, dude. Like people need to see your portfolio. People need to see what kind of work you do. You know what I mean? Like this channel was intended to really blow you up. Really, what ended up happening was this. I made these Beatles drawing caricature thing. It's horrendous, right? But I'm like talking you up because it's the truth. You're very good. You're a solid caricature artist. I don't think the people took that. I think they took it another way. Some people were like, "Your drawing's better." I'm like, "Dude, what are you doing?" Like, I wasn't trying to like get pity points here or make. I wasn't trying to do any of that. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, I really think highly of you. I think your art is awesome, and we're really good friends. We've always talked about philosophy, art, caricatures, how to do the stuff, different points of views. And what ended up happening, that one video got me like 500 subscribers. And I'm like, what? One video? It's like 20,000 views. I was like, wow, people actually watch this thing. And
wow.
so it actually got me to like do characters again, at least do it for fun. But you know, it's rare that you ever want to be on the internet, and it's rare that you even said yes. So we're gonna take this opportunity so they can hear your conversation and watch us draw a little bit. And just so you guys, and he doesn't like it when I do this, but I just gotta say who Peter is. Um, Peter, how long have you been doing caricatures for?
Oh, geez. Like 30 years, 30 plus years.
30 years. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so Peter's done. Peter's really great at likenesses. I've noticed a couple things about Peter's drawing when it comes to shapes. Um, anyway, no, I don't know. You've been doing it for years, and you knew me when I was a kid. I asked you, hey, can I get a job with you? And we drew caricatures at a theme park, and we drew
Right.
caricatures. And I guess we just, been friends ever since. And you eventually started working with me in animation, so we did
Yeah, that
animation.
was great. That was fun. But it's the same. I mean, we did talk about that before we started to record. It's really the same thing. It's just about having fun and wanting to do something, and um, it does become, it can become a business, and you can, but that's always the I don't know. It's what we said too before. It's like it's easy to get comfortable doing something, and you kind of become a one-trick pony. You know, it's growing as an artist, and that means you constantly have to challenge yourself and challenge what you do and how you do things. You know,
Yeah.
to be critical about your own stuff, that's an untrained skill,
Yeah.
and it's very easy to, and that comes with. I think a lot of people. I met a lot of artists too, and it's it's nice to um, when people like your stuff, but it's also easy to kind of that's what it becomes.
So
It's about the accolades. And
I'm gonna point out a couple drawings here. I just want to tell me your time frames on a lot of these. Give me a second. So if anybody wants to watch Peter's work, it's right here. Instagram.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
he didn't even put any hashtags in it, so nobody's gonna know. He only has 2 followers. So
Yeah, that's you and me.
yeah, I know. Nobody. Yeah, he won't show anybody. So yeah, let's talk about your oldest piece. Which one's your oldest piece? There's a lot of stuff that you didn't put in here, but what is your oldest piece in here?
Um, I don't know. Oh, probably that. What is that? 90210 there,
Oh yeah, I remember when I was a kid, man, walking by.
dude. That's
Yeah,
that's like I don't know what year that is. 90 something.
jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, now when I look at it, I'm like, but it's fun to look at because what we just talked about shapes. It's all about I think I was subconsciously. I think I always looked at shapes maybe, but when you start doing other things like you draw, the figure or you do animation and you start talking about the principles of other things, if it's just painting or drawing, it's the same thing. Really, what caricatures are, you just emphasize those shapes.
I want to show you this drawing that you did that I really liked. It's really elegant. Give me a sec. I don't even know you know how to take it down, so I know you didn't take it down. Give me a sec.
What do you mean, take it
You
down?
had a small little sketch on the corner. It was of Daniel Day. This one. I
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I really enjoy this. Yeah, it's really very intricate. I mean, you got here. I like how it does this, the nose, this, and then you got this. Then you have a little squiggle, a triangle. You know, it's just very nice and neat and organized too. This is very interesting.
Yeah, I think
You
I
have a lot of
was.
nice stuff here. Very simple shapes.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about that too. Sometimes um, he kind of reminds me of like Jimi Hendrix, how he liked to jam.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what's going to come. Those small drawings or the quick sketches you do,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, something happens when it's not always, some of those sketches, I'm like, I could have done something different, but you're just doing something like, you don't really think about it. You're just kind of drawing something really quick.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what it's, you try to build on that, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's I always like the sketching
Hey, so you never,
or the
so
render.
knowing you over the years, you never take pictures of your stuff. Oh, smokes. Hold on. I don't think I'm doing a good job showing this stuff. Hold on. Let me share another screen. There. Um, I noticed that you never take pictures of your stuff, and I never noticed you draw so much. Is this just over the years, towards the end of you drawing caricatures, that you started drawing as much as you have, or? These drawings. I mean,
No,
I know
I
this
was did.
was this over the years, or this was towards the
Yeah, it's
last
over the
couple
years.
months.
No,
Yeah.
no. Those are over the years. It was just when we shut down up at the park, I was collecting all these drawings that were laying around. Remember? They
Yeah.
were in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
boxes. They were freaking everywhere. And some of these things are from, uh, yeah, that time where,
So they were just scraps on the floor, huh?
yeah, they were just sketches we did. And I would just, yeah, just sit and, but I like those. I actually, like I said, I appreciate those more than, because that's really the sketching is really when you're trying to figure things out or what you feel. And uh you know it's always about, I mean, that's how I looked at caricatures, I guess. It's not necessarily about what you see, it's what you feel. And that's difficult sometimes, to rely on the feeling.
Yeah.
uh and and I think because we were doing it in the park so many years, that you do get stuck in a way of doing things. And I didn't like that, because I think that kind of stifles you a little bit. But that's what I like about some of the other people that we see online, and we'll be like, hey, check this guy, that, like Pablo in Spain. It's cool, because he's really just dealing with shapes. And it's not, so that's what I was saying before you started. It's about shape and space. That's really what you're dealing with. And then if you want to go further, it's like you take that shape and space and it becomes form and atmosphere. You can start to shape it, and if depending on what it is that you want to do. But you see that in animation too.
Hmm.
Like how does it relate? How does the shape move? And um,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think.
I know you studied
Yeah. I think
a
it's.
lot of anatomy and stuff, and so did guys like Michelangelo. You see kind of what they were thinking, how they were trying to figure it out. How can this read?
Yeah. Yeah. I think in
Um,
the end of the day, though, it's Anyway, like I said, like I was telling you, I think it has a lot to do with when you're a fan. When you're a fan of something, things come out more sincere. Now I understand what my mentor meant at Disney when he always talked about sincerity in the drawing.
right.
Like you want to be sincere, like don't be fake.
Hmm.
If you really don't know anything about that subject, it has nothing to do. Don't do it. Go experience it.
Right.
Go experience that situation and then draw it. Right. So if you're gonna just you know draw the rock without being a fan of the rock, you can only go so far. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, or it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a fan. You can also dislike someone and do a drawing just because of that. It's not, it's just having a feeling towards something. I know at Disney, like the Nine Old Men, and, there was certain animators like Ollie Johnson, he likes to do animals. So then you let somebody do that. That's knows it's just something they like to do.
You know, don't take this the wrong way, okay? I know you don't care. You have a thick skin, but I'm just gonna say it, all right? What I think is interesting about this drawing here of Jack Nicholson
Mm.
is that when I think of Jack Nicholson from Batman when I first saw him, the
Yeah.
Batman movies. But you're looking at Jack Nicholson from like you saw him in theaters from like before The Shining. So when I'm watching you draw
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson, you're not just drawing today's Jack Nicholson. You are taking consideration of Jack Nicholson from the freaking 60s and 70s, yeah?
Yeah, that's from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, I feel it, dude. I feel
Dude,
it.
and
Like,
that's
it
if you
actually,
look at yeah,
I
but if you
feel
look
it.
at Jack Nicholson from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and from some of his later movies, it's a completely different. That's something that I always liked about Hirschfeld. He would draw the character from that, whatever, if it was from a specific movie or a specific you know show, a theater show,
Mm-hmm.
they look a little bit different because of the character. And um, yeah, Jack Nicholson is because he usually has like a big forehead because he's got a receding hairline. He's got the big smile, but that wasn't him in that movie to me, at least.
Like this drawing you did here of her, we saw her in Lord of the Rings. We saw her when she was a big heartthrob, and now we're seeing her what she looks like now. And that's what I like about your drawing, because your drawing feels like you are familiar with her. You were familiar with her in Lord of the Rings, and you're familiar with how much she's changed over the years.
Wait, Lord of the Rings. She wasn't in Lord. That's
Shut up! You don't
was
know
she?
that? Come on! Oh, am I crazy? Did you not see like Apollo? No, what was it? That movie with they're saving the Earth from that comet.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm talking
with
about.
Bruce Willis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's in the movie. You know this, right? Or
Oh
no?
yeah, yeah. No, you were
Yeah.
saying Lord of the Rings.
She's in Lord of the Rings. Yeah, she's an elf.
She is.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I
Uh,
guess what I'm saying is that it's kind of neat to see you draw things like in this context. Even Daniel Day Lewis, you know.
yeah. Um, yeah, and that I mean, this is just a hodgepodge of stuff. I was into cross hatching for a while,
Wait,
so I
hold
did
on. You can't
that.
say that. You were into Native Americans. Yeah.
Yeah, I was into yeah, exactly. I was into Native Americans. I traveled to the sites. I love the history and I love that, in the 1800s you had, Lincoln, Grant, and you had all these people.
Well,
And
what I remember though, when we were going, when I was going through your sketchbook, and you let me see this drawing, I remember. Well, one, I know this is just weird comment, but the truth is, you weren't never secretive about what you did. You loved it. You didn't mind explaining what you did, how you thought about things, which I really appreciate. So thank you. A lot of artists
mm,
weren't so forthcoming with that. Second, I remember one time you told me that you were so into it that you actually parked your car and you went into the wild. And I'm like, what the heck?
yeah.
Yeah. And then one time you were like, yeah, I want to know what it's like to not drink anything. And then I guess you were
Oh
fasting, you didn't
shit.
drink, and you're like, it was weird to swallow. And I was like, why are you doing this? And I guess this is at the time when you're avidly reading about Native Americans and things like that. And you were drawing these caricatures. As you were talking to me about it, you were like, drawing caricatures of the Native Americans. And then, yeah, I don't know.
No, but yeah, that's just them being, they had their traditions and ceremonies and things they did.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it doesn't, it's just I assume that's what, boxers and the UFC fighters, they go in and challenge themselves and see if what they can do.
You know what's interesting about your work too, though? What I've noticed over the years, I thought when you draw, you're supposed to chain yourself to drawing. Sit down and draw. You're gonna get better. You hear it a lot. People say it all the time. You're gonna get better. There's only way to draw. You didn't do
Right.
that. You were actually a martial artist. You went to L.A. You trained in Shotokan with one of
Yeah.
the greatest senseis of all time, and
Hmm.
you actually, in my opinion, you would come into the park and you would always be like, you'd have your glasses on and you'd be like, "Shh, here's my imitation of you. This is you coming into the park. You had your glasses on like this. You'd go, and you couldn't even tell you were a caricature artist. You couldn't even tell you were an artist. You couldn't even go, and I'm like, where are you coming from? Training. And then you go and you start, all right, let's start to draw. And it looked like you were a surfer more than you were an artist. The guys that were working with us felt like artists. They were just like hunched over and drawing, like with their tongue sticking out to the side. And you were just like,
Yeah.
you didn't come across that way. And it's funny because, first of all, I thought maybe you're just really talented. You don't really got to try as much. But part of me says, like, as an animator, there was this section in this book where it said there were two types of animators. There was ones that obsessively would composite the whole situation and like be analytical about it and then do the thing. But then there was
Milk
this one,
call.
maybe, but I don't. I'm not quite certain. I wouldn't know. But I know Frank Thomas was like that. And then there's
Hmm.
another type. This one guy.
Freddie Moore.
Well, yeah. Well, this guy didn't do anything. He would just He would look at the storyboard, look at the shot, and be like, "All right, take 2 weeks off, and then come back to do the shot." And I remember thinking, "Well, I've tried everything. I'll try that." Animation got better. It just got way
Right.
better because I think what I allowed it to do was instead of concentrating and honing down on my tools so much, I allowed it to subconsciously like seep in, and I would go out and run. I'd go out and hang out. I'd live a little, just watch some TV with my family, engage more with people, and then when it was time to do the shot, the tools are just working, you know. So I actually found it more helpful not doing it as much, you know, just like letting it seep in my subconscious, and then do the thing, you know, and because you can tell when you're trying too hard in animation, you can, just like you can tell when you're trying too hard on a drawing or caricature.
Mm-hmm.
You're battling the thing, you know. Maybe you need to take a break. Maybe you take a walk. Maybe just do it sometimes, you know. Come back to it. But I think the artist, in my opinion, who doesn't take a break and takes the stuff too seriously, they're battling two things. They're battling the technique and they're battling the drawing that they're trying to enjoy, you know. And I think there's a role for both. You know, like you sit down and you learn some technique, take a rest, come back, and then do the thing. Kind of like performing, right? Like dancing. You don't want to be like technical about it when you're dancing. You kind of just want to perform. I think in the end of the day, it's about expressing yourself, right? And I think the body needs rest. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is that getting to know you over the years, I've noticed that you never change yourself to the drawing board. You never did that, in my opinion. I don't know. Am I right?
No, but I think that's what I liked about.
Oh, and you're a tennis player too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I was drawn to the martial arts just because of that, because it has to do with, of course, technique, but it has to do with the feeling too. You know,
Mm.
that's why, you know, one of the greatest movies I think is The Seven Samurai, because he's, you know, Kurosawa is talking about these different characters and how they kind of approach things. And there's no one way of approaching it. And I agree with you. I probably saw more problems in not doing something. You know, if I go for a bike ride or a run or a walk, just to kind of, you know, get your mind off of things. And also, um, yeah, it's like Sherlock Holmes. When he was thinking, he played his violin. Remember?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily sitting trying to solve it. You know, you just have to kind of get your mind off of it, and sometimes it'll come to you better, maybe. I think Hirschfeld said something too about that. I think it's in that Lion King. He's trying to solve. I forget who he's drawing, but he can't get it, and he's like he got stuck, and then he just put it aside. Uh, and did some other things, and then he came back to it fresh, and I guess he was able to solve whatever issue he had with the face, which didn't feel right. But you know, we do that too, and that's an old kind of a trick. You know, you take a drawing, you put it in the mirror, and you see it like, you know, another way, or just put it away and look at it a few hours later or something. You usually like, oh yeah, I can see it. What's wrong? It's just interesting. I agree with you. I'm not one of those that I know. I've known people that's all they do. It's, if they're a painter, that's all they do, paint all day. If they're you know, whatever trade they're in, that's all they do. If they're an animator, that's all they do. And that works for them. That's great. There are no really one way of doing it.
Yeah. You know what? This is my beef with that. If I had beef, this is my beef. I have beef with what's being told to artists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you want to draw. How else you can
Right.
get better? Like, there is a world where if you relax, you can get better. Like, who
Right.
says that's the only way to do it? Again, from your example, you didn't fucking do that, and you're great. You know what I mean? And you know that some people might say that's just him. Sure, but what if you try it? Like, why are we so inclined to work so hard? Why are we so inclined to want to like kill ourselves to get better at
Mm.
something? Like this whole pain no gain situation. I think, like for an example, when I see animators, like I'm an animator, you
Hmm.
know, and I know the technique, I know all that stuff. But I don't know why people are more inclined to learn more technical stuff than to feel it out or try something different. For an example, there's this radical thing that I say that a lot of people are like, "That's just crazy." I'm big on not drawing the figure. You don't have to draw the figure. You don't have to draw a nude person in front of you to get better at life drawing. You don't. You can here and there take a look and see where you're at. Yeah, it makes sense. Countless hours? I haven't been countless hours in front of no figure. In fact, I learned a lot from drawing from toys. I draw from these little figures, these little toy figures, because
Hmm.
you're able to touch it, move it in angles. And these figures today, if you go to Walmart, $5 figures are amazing, especially if you're learning to draw. Now, if you want to put your stuff to the test and go in front of a model, yeah, I'm all for that. But the argument to always be in front of a nude model every day, I haven't been one in front in like 20 years. Do I
Mm.
suck over it? No, I don't think so. But I don't think there's one way of doing things. Is my point. And I think I've voiced this opinion several times, and people on the internet have like wrong. If I'm so wrong, why do I have such a why have things worked out for me? It has nothing to do with me being wrong. I'm just introducing another way. This is just another way. This has nothing to do with right or wrong. This works out for me. Hey, I like to share what works out for me. Um, but again, like me saying, "Hey, everyone, relax, draw sometimes." That's blasphemous to a lot of people. Like, no, I, so and so said to draw. Like, draw all the time. Like, chill, chill. Not a lot of people do that. Um, anyway, that's just
Yeah,
more than one way of
I
doing
wish I
things.
was more a little bit more like it, because I have met people that do that and they're excellent artists, and I'm like, fuck. They get up in the morning, they're like, yep, I do three quick paintings, small sketches, and then I'll do three before I go to bed, or whatever they do.
Yeah.
And they're great, but there is that balance. That's the technique. You're learning.
Yeah, but what do you
Uh,
want from that exactly? Like, I don't know. Like, what do you get from that? I don't know. To me, animations really taught me one thing, which is live, live. You're gonna animate something. Live, live and get some context, or else your
mhm.
animation's gonna be flat. It's the way it is.
Right,
If you're gonna do somebody skipping, go out and skip. In fact,
right.
there's two different ways you can do this. You can go out and skip, which will be bad because, in my opinion, you'll be analytical about where you're skipping, or you can take a child with you and skip. And then you're skipping for fun. And on top of that, you're gonna laugh. On top of that, you're gonna experience it not in a technical way, but in an emotional way. That way, when you come back and you animate someone skipping, it's just gonna be way more context than just you analyzing skipping. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And you see that in the Nine Old Men, when you did that, Milt called it that double skip, and it's
yeah,
it's just great. It feels great. But it's the same thing. You look at like a painter like Sorolla, who you look at those colors in Spain and you feel like you're there. Or you look at Zorn from Sweden, and I am from Sweden, so when he paints with those colors, I relate to that coldness and the grayness of Northern Europe.
yeah.
And it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if it's colors or if it's movement or if it's lines. There's a difference between drawing a line just to draw a line, or draw a line that has a feeling to it. And uh, I think that's what separates. And it's the same thing with music. If somebody plays a certain piece, like a scale, and if it's Mozart or Beethoven, or somebody that just knows technique, there is a different feel to it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine me skipping and then coming back to anime, skipping, coming back. I think it need.
Right.
I think, in my opinion, you have to take advantage of your subconscious, and I think caricatures does that. Like I think if you like something, you enjoy it. First thing is, like I Dream of Jeannie, the drawing that you're doing on top there.
Mm.
I can go and do it right now. I have a
Right.
flat drawing. I can go enjoy the show, right? Not thinking I'm gonna draw them. That's different because then I'll just be enjoying it. But if I'm gonna go into
Right.
it thinking I'm gonna draw it, you know what I mean? It's kind of tainted a little bit. But the discipline is enjoy the thing, then go back, and do a drawing. And in most
Yeah, I
cases,
hadn't seen it
and in
for
most cases, I don't
years.
even think. In most cases, the way we draw, I don't think we need to actually see the people anymore. We could probably just draw the thing off the top of our head.
Yeah, well, that's another skill, to trust your instincts. It's very, and that's what drew me to the martial arts, because that is really, you're letting um, you're putting everything on the line. You could get hurt, and to trust your instincts and not be afraid.
I
That's
think
difficult.
I think the martial arts is a great representative to what animation and the way I approach things because you don't want to be training while you're fighting, bro. You'll get
Right.
hurt.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a place to train, and then when you go off to
Hmm.
fight, you're not supposed to think. You're supposed to do. Yeah, and let your
Yeah, and I
subconscious
think I used
take
to
over,
tell you that.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think we talked about that one time, the Book of Five Rings by Musashi, where he talks about Ken and Kan. Ken is like the technical aspect, and the Kan is, I think, I haven't read it in years, but I think it's something like that. But he talks about when you're in a training facility like a dojo, it's like 90% technique and 10% emotion
You
or
know,
feeling. And then it's the opposite. In a real fight, it becomes 90% just feeling, and just such a small part is technique, because um, I think that's always the battle, is between technique and what it is that you're feeling. At least it is for me.
no, that has to be it. I mean, yeah, but I think you've said this over the years. It's working in tangent with both the logical and emotional side, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the
exactly.
technical, yeah. I mean,
You can't let the technique control, because then it becomes just stiff and boring. That has to be just a tool. There are no rules, just tools, and that's the difficult part of not relying on just the technique. And that's what when we talk about Freddie Moore, or we talk about people we've met through the years, and it's such a playfulness about certain things.
I'm so over the years when we were working at the park drawing caricatures, I remember asking you about animation. I said, "Would you ever get into it?" You're like, "I see myself one day."
Yeah,
I never thought I'd be the one showing you all this stuff,
I know, dude. That's
but I'm so
funny.
happy it happened because
Yeah.
I know how to teach it to you because you're a caricature artist. You know what I mean? So it was
Hmm.
exciting, and you know what's exciting too? Don't take this the wrong way, but if you like it, you like it.
Right.
You know. So we haven't worked with each other for a while, but
Right.
it makes me so happy when you bring up Milk Hall, Freddie Moore. That's great because I
Yeah.
think it still impacted you. Yeah, like the
Oh,
animators and what they've
huge.
done. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is, a lot of artists and a lot of people, we kind of grew up with Disney, to watch Snow White and those old movies, and you know, what is that movie? The Brave Little Tailor, is it?
So
Mickey Mouse.
so what do you think? What did you learn from character? What did you learn from animation that you? I don't. Do you feel like it did anything to your caricatures or?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything that you come in contact with it teaches you something. It doesn't matter if it's the martial arts, if it's sports, or um, whatever you do, or you read something. But with the whole animation thing, it was just to get a you it's what we talked about too. I think that was the Disney, how what they feel, and they it's like Mickey Mouse is a person. It's not just a mouse. He
Yeah.
has personality, and
Yeah.
he comes
Yeah. He's
through,
not a
and
drawing.
it's yeah
No,
it's
sir.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, and that's why we can relate to it. We can kind of feel empathy for, Snow White, or we feel the witch and the queen there.
Can I show you a drawing that Dale did for me, the way he did it?
Yeah.
All right. Give me a second. I want you to see what happened to the order of events. All right. Let's see here. Okay, can you see if you
All
can
right,
see
I'm
my
gonna stop
screen?
video screening here. Stop screen share. All right.
Can you see my blank canvas?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Give me a second. Okay. I'm gonna share what I was taught at Disney Studios. Right. So I did this drawing of Mickey Mouse. Give me a second.
Yeah, keep going. I'm gonna be back in 30 seconds.
It is a treat. I know Peter's not listening, but I hope you guys are enjoying the interview of me and my buddy Peter. He's been drawing caricatures for years, and he's a good friend of mine. We got him. I got him to agree to talk on the internet, so it's great. So I hope you guys all enjoy the conversation, and if you guys like it, please comment and let me know if you do. If you like these conversations, I would like to do more of them. So, all right, I'm gonna do some drawings of Mickey Mouse. Just give me a second. I want to wait for Peter though. I want to see
Sorry.
this. No, it's cool, dude. All right, so let me show you this drawing I did of Mickey Mouse. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So what were we just talking about just now?
You were gonna show me something that Dale did?
Yeah. Why? I forgot.
Man, you're putting me on the spot.
I know. No, don't worry about it.
I know.
I
We
forgot
can't
too.
can't leave like that.
But we're talking about sincerity, I guess. I don't know. We're talking about something.
All right.
All right. So look. So I did this drawing of Mickey Mouse, right? So I did this drawing, and I remember Willie Dale went over it. He said, he goes, "Can I go over that drawing?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "We're gonna." He never said it's bad or anything. He just said, "I'm gonna massage it." He always said that. I'm gonna massage it. And this is what he did. When he was drawing Mickey Mouse, he started off with this corner right here. He just stayed there for a bit, and he goes like this. He goes, yeah, he has a tongue. Like he's real. And he would make the sound effect too. He'd go, ah, and he would just be really delicate about his mouth. And he was so delicate, it was almost like when he did this wrinkle, he just didn't draw the wrinkle. Like he really felt like when he drew that wrinkle, I felt that wrinkle on my face. The way he cared so much. And he just sat there and did stuff like this. And then when he drew this nose, he did this little hole here, and then he drew the nose. Kind of like, that's where it comes from. And when he drew that little light source, you actually felt like the sun was shining on the nose. And then he would do this, and you really just felt like the way he was drawing it, like he cared very much.
Yeah.
And then when he drew the eyes, I remember he drew the pupils first. And then he did this very lightly, very delicately, and then he went pretty aggressive here. Just enough. And you felt how much he cared about Mickey Mouse. Like he was so delicate with the drawing, not because he was trying to do a great drawing, because he was caring about the actor Mickey Mouse, the guy he was drawing, you know. And I
Right.
remember when he did his middle part, he just didn't just go like this. He didn't do that, and just to prove to be
Right.
fast or any of that. This is what he did. It's like he carved it in his forehead, you know. And then when he did this part here, he really considered the anatomy here of his cheek.
Right.
He just didn't draw it. I mean, the dude went like that. Now, in the end, the drawing was okay, you know. But you know, in
Mhm.
time, you know, like these drawings get better because the animator gets used to it. But the way he did it, I realized I understand what sincerity means.
Right.
It's not about whipping the drawing out or any of that. And he would do this, and then he would go here and go really dark, and then go light because his soul is here somewhere. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's just like you can really feel like his tongue was in his mouth, man. And when he drew the ears, like yeah, man, he was very sensitive. Like he did these whiskey little drawings here, but because he's hearing something, he's hearing you, he's hearing us.
Right.
So when Dale drew, he cared very much. He wasn't about spitting out this drawing. He was about caring about the drawing, and that always stuck with me. The way Dale drew, you know.
Yeah, and it's true. I also learned that early on when I was. I remember. I forget where I was, but there was. I was drawing an eye, and I was drawing the crow's feet underneath the eye,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy goes. He said something like, because I think I didn't really. I kind of did what you did. I just did it really quick,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't. It didn't feel like crow's feet. It didn't feel like they were coming from somewhere, and there's a reason they're there, you know. every line every line has a, has a meaning and a purpose why it's there, and it reminds me of, I mean, there are a lot of things, and this is one way of doing it, and I totally agree that, you want to feel what it is. And then what you also said, and what we just said about Disney, this person is, Mickey. He was smiling in the drawing you just did. Why is he smiling?
Right,
Or did he see a cake, or is he
right,
seeing Minnie Mouse, or
right.
what kind of smile is this, and what is it that he's feeling?
So,
Which,
and let's think about caricatures a little bit, right? Have you
mhm,
noticed that there are people like Jay Leno, for an example,
right?
they'll just screw him up. Look, here's a fat chin,
Yeah, yeah,
cuz. Like,
I
but
know.
I mean, this is what I like about sincerity. If you're a fan of Jay Leno and you're drawing Jay Leno, you can tell whoever's drawing it. You don't always have to push it. You don't always have to push it.
Right,
You can, but if you're just trying to push it to show people how you can destroy people, okay, but you're missing it, in my opinion. You're missing it. You're missing the caricature. What Hirschfeld said. He said, I'm a character artist. I'm not a caricature artist. He draws
right,
the character, you
right,
know.
right.
And I've noticed that a lot of caricature artists just focus on like, I said, fucking nose, I'm huge, all this rendering. You're missing, in my opinion, the bigger picture here. You know? Like the character, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's also. I mean, when something comes out and it's new, like when Nirvana came out, it was like grunge music. Everybody was, all of a sudden, everybody played like that. When there's something. So when, like, Sebastian Kruger came out with his books, everybody wanted to like render the
Right,
crap out
right,
of the
right.
drawings, and they were going to be this and this. Yeah, I mean, something is going to come of it. There's going to be, but you don't want to also be, and that's difficult too. When you see something that's cool, you want to do it. It's hard not to be a parrot, and that's also the battle. What is it that you think about something? um I think there's who was it, Degas, and somebody that painted the same thing. uh it was during that time. I forget who the other guy was. But it was just interesting. It was a different take on it. It was the same thing, but they just did it their way.
So you have this drawing here of what is it? The Great Lebowski. Do you remember that drawing you did of the Great Lebowski?
Oh, the Big
The
Lebowski.
the
Yeah,
Big
yeah,
Lebowski. What I
yeah.
like about the drawing that you did is I remember you told me, "Hey man, have you seen the movie The Big Lebowski?" And I'm like, no. And you're like, dude, it's a funny movie. You should watch it. And then the next day you did the caricature. But I just remember how enthusiastic you were when you told me about it the very first time. You were
Yeah,
so happy, and you were
yeah,
saying
yeah.
it's so funny, man. You're like they had their ashes, and then it came back. You were just laughing,
It was
and
funny. Yeah.
so I remember when you did the drawing,
Mm.
you were sincere about it. You were sincere, and it was almost like you weren't drawing. It was almost just more like you're enjoying what you're doing. The drawing just happened to come out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. But that goes back to what we said earlier. I mean, you have to have something. It doesn't matter if it's joyous or anger, or there has to be some kind of feeling. If you watch, and this is something that I saw from back in like World War II, people would draw in the concentration camps. It's like this dreary,
Yeah.
nasty, just I mean, you don't feel good about those drawings, but it's an emotion that they had. Or you look at Van Gogh's last painting. I mean, you saw the torment, and it's just, you know, it's the truth kind of that comes out,
I
and
I
that's what we
I,
can relate to.
I do want to call you out on one drawing. I do remember one
Yeah,
drawing you just did it. I wouldn't call it sincere, but I
yeah,
remember I was asking you because you were telling me you draw off the top of your head, and I was like, yeah, draw this guy off the top of your head. And I remember you had glanced. We were looking at Entertainment Magazine. You had glanced at this one guy. He's a talk show host, and you're like, all right, and you just felt him out off the top of your head. And I thought that was really neat. You know what I mean? You
yeah.
by no means were you a fan of him or any of that, but the point, the exercise was to draw him off the top of your head. Here, I'll share it with you.
Oh,
See
you
what I'm
have the
talking about?
drawing?
Yeah, it's right here. Remember this guy?
Oh, yeah. Dennis Miller.
Yeah, it was this
Yeah,
little,
yeah.
little, little, little picture of him, and you glanced at it, and then you drew him. And then I was just thinking, how cool that was as an exercise to have drawn him. Compared to something like this, The Big Lebowski. You know,
Yeah.
this is not from memory, and the other one was from memory. Um,
Yeah,
you know
actually that
what? The
reminds me.
wording is wrong. I don't want to tell you you're not sincere. Actually, knowing you over the years, you're actually pretty freaking sincere. No matter what you do, you actually invest a lot in what it is you do. Yeah, I mean, you're not quick, ever. You take the time to do the job. Yeah, not even to do the job. I mean, you take the time to express yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I sometimes overthink things, but that's what I like about drawing from memory. It's something that I met a guy on the plane one time from London to, I think I flew to Chicago. I still keep in contact with him, and he had written a book, and I started to read about it more and more. But he wrote a book called Blindfold Chess. His name is John Knotts, and he ended up next to me on the plane. We talked the whole way over, and we started to talk about, because blindfold chess is about, you don't see the board, you actually have a blindfold, and some of these people have developed a skill where they can play 20 different games, not even looking. They just feel it and remember, and it's crazy how much they can remember. And we and he was actually playing chess on the flights. We started to talk, and I said, yeah, yeah, sometimes I draw from memory. And he'd be like, oh yeah. And he's like, could you draw this guy? And some of the people that he said, I didn't even know who they were. So I'm like, yeah. But some of them were like Ronald Reagan, and he's an older guy. I think he might be in his mid 70s now. But it it was an illuminating conversation with him, uh, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, how much we really remember, and how much but it's this whole thing of trusting your instincts and trusting what you feel and what something looks like.
There was one exercise that stuck with me. One of the last caricatures. I think this might be the last caricatures me and you did.
Mm.
We picked Mr. Rogers to caricature,
Oh,
and I remember drawing it, I remember what I was thinking at the time. All right, I'm gonna make it look like him. And I
Right.
remember you saw the drawing and you said, you didn't look at the drawing. Your first comment wasn't the drawing. It was, are you sure? He's actually quite kind. And I was like, such a masterful fucking, feedback.
Hmm.
Because it wasn't about the nose, it wasn't about the eyes, it wasn't about design, it wasn't about the tools, it was none of that. All you
Hmm.
said was, he's quite kind. And
Yeah,
then I
he's
was,
like a
and then
little teddy
yeah, and
bear,
then I
you know.
thought, yeah. And I remember the way you drew him. You drew him kind. You drew him loving. And I like, that's testimony to over the years of how you honed in your skill. Like you made sure that stuff came across, not the technique, not how well you did a nose or an eye. It was, he was loving, and that's what you caricatured. And I thought that was neat. That was cool. I guess that's my point. Like you were always sincere. You always, I think you always had. Did you always have stuff like that in you? You never just tore them up. That's not what you were looking for, yeah. I mean,
No, but I think that I mean, I, there are a lot of artists that I do appreciate. Like Stephen Brodner was one of them that I really really like what he did, and I still do. When I look at his stuff, it's like, oh man, it's really really good. Uh, and he did one of. I remember he did one of David Letterman,
mm,
and David Letterman was he. I think he was talking to someone. The drawing was he was kind of leaning in and he was talking to him. He was smiling, his big David Letterman smile, but he was behind his back, he was holding an axe.
mm,
And it just, I thought it was such a great drawing because he could also be, if I think he had this thing with Madonna where they were just bantering each other. And he was just like, I mean, he could be harsh, David Letterman, if you didn't play along with the script, and that's kind of what that signified to me. And I thought it was a great thing. But it's back to the whole thing again, like Mickey Mouse. What is he thinking? Is he a nice person or is he?
well, Ollie said it best, right? Well, what's the character thinking, and why does he feel that way?
Right?
Answer that
Yeah,
question, and you can do a scene.
yeah.
And it's
And
true.
but that's a cool thing about the Seven Dwarves.
Yeah.
They all have different characters, and you can't take Doc into happy. They're two different, so you have to play on and those. Uh, it's important. They got to stay in that. They made this
Yeah.
person, and
So
you got to stick to that.
yeah. So like Tupac. Tupac would be a
Right.
gangster, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
want him.
You can't draw him like, yeah, Rogers.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it doesn't. It wouldn't work. He has to be him, or yeah, any of. Yeah, that's the interesting part. It's seeing who the person is, I guess, and that's what you're trying to draw,
Or
or
caricature the
depict.
situation by using one word. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Happy, grumpy, sneezing, right?
Right, right. I mean, but
So
that's what makes like a good book. Like if you read a classic book like War and Peace, how they can write a sentence, or poetry like T.S. Eliot or something, that they write something, just one line that describes something, and you can be like, oh man, I totally get that. That's a skill. And I'm not saying I have it, but I can understand it when I read it and I see it. And somebody, uh, like as I said before, like Sorolla with his colors in Spain, and I've been to Spain, and I'm like, fuck, that is what it is. I feel those. I feel the warmth, and I know. Monet did that too when he painted the same scene, different times of the day. He wanted to capture that, the warmth or the cold or whatever it was. So I think it's all the same, but it is interesting. It's just problem solving, and It comes down to emotion.
All right, so I'm gonna cut our conversation down here. I want to just get the world to know a little bit of what our conversation was like over the years. This is why we would talk, and then I think this is what, in my opinion, like I don't know a lot of people that talk like this over the years, you know. So it's always a treat to you know, have these kind of conversations because, in my opinion, this what contributes to growth in art. You know, these conversations, and it's cool, you know, because how diverse, you know, because I noticed that when I talk about this stuff, I talk about it, you know, this caricatures, but getting to talk about it with you, we're touching on Soroya,
Yeah,
we're
yeah, we're
touching
all over
on
the place.
books.
Jack
I mean,
Nicholson
I
movies,
mean,
martial arts.
ADD to the max, but it all comes back to why we do what we do. You know, that's what I think is interesting. Like, anyway, if people found this interesting, comment, subscribe, let me know, and I'll get Peter to do it again. All right, bye everybody.